Okay, so only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. T.S. Eliot. Over the past couple months after I was given this topic of risk, and I do have to say, Nate, that I was allowed to give you like 3 topics that I was interested in doing, and I remember putting risk on the list as like, nah, like that's kind of risky for me to put it on there, but I doubt he'll pick that. And then you came with, so how about risk? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So over the past few months, the journey of looking at my life and the areas where I do go too far, and then the areas where I feel almost paralyzed to take a step, has been very interesting for me. So because I don't really want to come out of the gates right away being super vulnerable and exposed, I'm going to start with the areas where I kick ass in risk, okay? So one is traveling solo internationally. A lot of people say that that's risky to do, and I say it's pure bliss, and every single woman should do it. Being the first on a dance floor. A lot of people say that they don't want to go out there because there's the risk of being embarrassed or laughed at, and I say there should never be a beat that goes undanced to. So that's where I go. And the third is an area, business. Actually, I take a lot of risks in business, and starting back in 2009, I actually left the teaching profession. I should probably explain that I was laid off. I was pink slipped. So I was laid off for the 4th year in a row. Thank you, California, last in, first out policy. And because it had happened 4 times in the row, I kind of got this memo that this could happen again and again and again. And I really wasn't interested in living my life like that. So I asked myself a very important question. If you could wake up every morning and do something, what would it be? And during a nice long walk around Mission Bay, the answer came to me. The answer was, I would help youth and help them be of service to others. And for the last 6 years, I have followed through on that answer. And I created a company called WIT, Whatever It Takes, and we work with high school teens and help them become social entrepreneurs and leaders while also earning college credit from UCSD. And along the way, I've taken a lot of risks, or what some may think are risky moves. I've opened up WIT locations in different cities before people thought we were even ready. I've hired people that were underqualified, and I've fired people that were overqualified. And along the way, it was actually really easy for me to do that because I always had the teens in the forefront of my mind. It was very easy, and it has been very easy for me to take risks professionally because of who I serve. It's not hard for me to go out on a limb or use my voice or advocate. I've flown to Sacramento to speak at Senate hearings, and when Marty Block walked out of the room, I kept talking. And when they turned off my mic, I kept talking. So it's not hard for me to stand up for youth and to take risks in that area when it comes for advocating for them. But recently, something happened that made me realize that maybe I'm not so willing to take risks in every area of my life. I had a certain encounter that made me realize that when it came to the area or the business of the heart, I wasn't exactly willing to take a lot of risks. And what I realized in this encounter was that all of a sudden, all those things that are the telltale signs of risk aversion showed up in my life. All of a sudden, self-doubt came back into my life. I hadn't really experienced that in a while because I've been kicking ass in work and taking risks and feeling successful. And then all of a sudden, I had this level of self-doubt coming in. And then I had this fear of failure, which again is a telltale sign of risk aversion, like run away, you could possibly fail. And I think it was because when it came to this area, the business of the heart, I don't have as many wins as I have in business. And so it felt like a risk I didn't want to take. But don't worry, I'm not going to start like sharing my entire personal life with you. That's not what this is going to be about. So just relax. It's like a true confessional. Like I'm just trying to share that encounter made me think that maybe all of us have an area of our life where we're risk averse, but we don't really notice it because we're over here just killing it, looking like, hey, look at me, I'm like so brave and so risky. Meanwhile, there's this like shadow thing happening over here that we're avoiding. And so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, because in work, I get a lot of praise, a lot of positive reinforcements. It feels very safe for me. But when it comes to dating, I feel like there's like this construction sign of like, too risky, go back to work. And literally that's what I've done. I will go back to work and I will launch another business or I will create another program. But recently I asked myself, why am I so willing to take risks when it comes to helping other people, but not when it comes to something that could help me? And that really gave me pause. And maybe for some of you, it's where your risk averse looks different. Maybe you kill it in the area of personal relationships, but you're hiding behind some of your own fears and limitations when it comes to work. Or maybe it's really easy for you to step up in the workplace, but when it comes to taking care of your health or advocating for yourself, you're not really willing to take those risks and step up for yourself. Or maybe in all areas of your life right now, you're feeling kind of stagnant and maybe living a life that would be considered status quo, and I just believe that that's not okay. I think that we're meant to live great lives, and we're meant to break through these limiting beliefs so that we can bring our creativity and our full self to the world. And I think that the only thing that's holding us back from making these risky steps and risky actions in whatever area of your life it is the limiting beliefs that we have and the narrative and story that we tell ourselves about what might happen. So for example, you might think, what if I launch a blog and nobody reads it? That means that I suck as a writer. Really? Or maybe it just means that you have to work on your content, or maybe you just have to go look at other blogs that have been successful and get some tips from them. Or maybe it's, what if my client doesn't like my photos or my designs or my videos? Oh, that means that I'm just not even creative. Really? Just because one person or one team doesn't like it, that means that you are no longer creative? That is a very large leap to make. And then what if it's that the investor didn't like my idea? They didn't invest, so that just means that my idea sucks. Maybe it does, but it could. But maybe it just sucks to that investor, and then it won't to the next one. Or maybe it just means that you have to work on your pitch a little bit more. I mean, there are so many rejection success stories. Harry Potter rejected 9 to 11 times, and obviously that turned out okay. Walt Disney was fired, from the editor of a newspaper because he was told that he didn't have really great ideas and he lacked imagination. So if you are ever feeling like you are alone in your fear of failing and not being successful, seriously, just do what I do. I Google, what's the Google? I do rejection success stories, and then I just start feeling better. So, and I have to challenge all of us on this, and I want to be really clear with you. Everything that I'm talking about, I'm working through, okay? So I'm not up here saying that I got all figured out. I've just been doing a lot of thinking about this thanks to our dear friend Nate. So I think that sometimes we get stuck in this what if story because it has become to feel more comfortable than taking a risk. And I get that. I get it completely. I told you, like when it comes to matters of the heart, I'm the one that has literally been afraid to text first, because if he doesn't text me back, that means that somehow I'm not wanted. I mean, that is absurd, okay? And even saying that out loud is like slightly embarrassing. I was like, very embarrassing. But it's also very liberating because I can hear it and I realize how absurd it sounds. And I think that that's the case for a lot of the limiting stories and the fears that we have. So what's something that you think that you could classify as a potentially limiting belief? Okay, it usually sounds like, I can't start a business because I'm not good with numbers. I can't run a marathon because I'm not an athlete. I can't have a relationship because I'm not lovable. These are all limiting beliefs. So I would like you to, I was gonna say pull out your pens and paper because I used to be a teacher, but I'm very aware that not many people have a pen and paper in their desk. So if you would like to pull out your phone, if it's not already out, or you can just kind of keep it in your head. I'm not gonna force you to do anything. I'm not gonna pull out my 4th grade teacher like I'm watching. But if you could take a moment to either think about it or write it down, what would be that limiting belief for you? And to identify it, it usually starts with, I can't because I'm not. So it's like, I can't fill in the blank because I'm not fill in the blank. And it's usually the thing that shows up in your mind just when you're about to take a step in your life that could actually make your life better. It just starts like blaring in your ear. And so I want to take a minute to think about what that is. Don't overthink it or do, I don't really care, but I'm just going to give you like a few seconds to think about that. Okay, so here comes the risky part, the brave part. Who would like to share theirs with everyone? I mean, I'm sure everyone's just like chomping at the bit for 400 people. So you do. Okay, can you stand up? Yeah. Can you use a really loud voice?
Hi, I'm Jen.
Hi, Jen.
I can't get in good shape because I'm lazy.
Okay, so the fear would be, I can't get in shape because I'm lazy. Okay. Who here has had that fear before, that belief before? Look at all your friends. Stand up. All you that had your hands up, put your hands up again. Look at everybody. So in this moment, and I swear she's not a plant, like I don't know you. So I actually told Nate, if nobody talks, I have another option I can go to. So thank you for being brave. But in that moment, I just want to ask you a question. When you looked out and you saw everybody raising your hand, how did that feel?
Pretty great.
Pretty good, because it's what I like to call those Me Too moments, when you realize like you're not alone with it. And the thing about fear is it tries to keep you thinking that you're alone and that nobody has ever felt this way before. And in that moment, you realize that there are people that have. Now, I have another question. Who here has felt that way and then conquered that? Oh, look. Stand up. Raise it high. These are all the people that you can go talk to and say, how'd you do it? And let me ask those people that had their hands up, how many of you be willing to talk to her? See, look at all that awesomeness. So the idea is, when you have something like that, I think it's, you can sit down, you can sit down. I know. You can sit down, I know, it's a lot. The idea with this idea of vocalizing these things is that, one, it kind of takes the sting out of it. Being brave to share it in a space where then then you ask, like, has anybody else felt that way? And you realize that they have. You have that moment inside where you go, okay, so it's like, I'm not the total loser. Okay, good. Like, other people have felt this way. And then when you say, has there been anybody out there that's like conquered that and like has skills for me? Could you help me? And then people do. It's like, damn, you're like one step closer. You're one step closer to facing, to getting rid of that limiting belief or that fear. And I think so I want to ask you, and I'm putting you on the spot a little bit. You don't have to answer because that's, I'm not going to like embarrass you, but the important thing is when you identify something that's limiting you is that you really have to take an action behind it. And that's when the change starts to happen. So is there an action that you can take today, even after this event, that would help you combat that?
Go for a run.
Okay, you could go for a run, and you could go for a walk too. Like you could go for a run walk. You could do it, it's like, because sometimes we go like, yeah, I could sign up for a marathon. It's like, okay, yeah, you could, but let's just like, let's kind of like, because you don't want to create a situation where you create these like a huge next step and then a huge expectation and you can't meet it, because then all that does is confirm and perpetuate your fear, because you'll prove yourself right. Once again, I'm lazy and I can't do it, because you set too big of an expectation for yourself. So I was not planning this, but I super want to give you like a round of applause. Can we just applaud her? I did not, because I think it's brave. I think it's brave to do that. Anybody else have one that they, okay, we have one over here. Here, I'll help you up. Okay, you have to face them though. Okay, so what would be the one that came to mind for you?
I don't think that I can be an entrepreneur because I'm too young and scatterbrained.
Okay, bullshit. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. My first reaction is bullshit. I know I can swear, so I'm okay with that. And that's because you're talking to a woman who created a company that works with 15-year-olds that are entrepreneurs. So I just know for sure that that's not true, okay? And so I'm the person that you can talk to about that. But has anybody in this room ever had that same belief that maybe they're too young? Yeah, too young to be an entrepreneur. Maybe you don't have the right education to be an entrepreneur. P.S. I was a theater major. Okay, I was a theater major, and then I was a theater major with no backup plan. So people would say, "You're a theater major. What's your backup plan?" I'm like, no, don't have one. And now I became a teacher, and then I became an entrepreneur. So there is no. Here's what I have to say about that. There is no age limit or requirement to creativity and to the ability to come up with solutions that can help other people. That's just bullshit. There is no reason that you have to be a certain age to be able to have wisdom or ideas to how to make the world a better place. And if anything, the younger you are, kind of like the more fearless you are, is what I found with the youth that I work with, because they're not worrying about a mortgage or bills. I mean, I will work with youth that will say, I'm going to end homelessness around the country. I'm like, okay. So now we want to scale it back a little bit, just like let's prove the concept here, but that's how big their ideas are. So who here has been an entrepreneur, who here is an entrepreneur, but at one point really felt that they couldn't do it and they really had to break through something to make that happen? Oh, look at all the people you can talk to. Here, what's this guy? What's your name? Dave. Dave, would you talk to her afterwards? Good job. Okay, let's give a round of applause. Okay, let's do, we got one more. One more, anybody? Okay, gentleman in the back. What's your great limiting belief?
I can't finish reading a book because I get distracted.
Can't finish reading a book because you get distracted.
Yeah.
Anybody else relate to that? How many people have books? I see my neighbor up there. Okay. How many of you have books by your nightstand that are like stacked up that have just like, yeah. Well, sometimes it's because it's not good, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's because it's not a good book. And sometimes it's because you feel distracted. So who here has, we already said that we had people here that have dealt with that.
Yeah.
Who here has conquered that? Oh, my neighbor.
Working on it.
Okay, Trevor, stand up. This is so good when I know people in the audience. Trevor has conquered that. I'm going to tell you something about, what's your name?
Edgar.
Edgar, I'm going to tell you something about Trevor. If you talk to Trevor, I know him so well, he will make sure that you conquer that.
Okay.
Because he does not believe in, he believes in follow through, not failure, and doing whatever it takes. So he's a good person for you to connect with afterwards.
Awesome.
There you go, Trevor. I know where you live, so if you don't have that conversation, I can find you. Yeah, no, yeah, that's, oh, that. Okay, that was awesome. Did everybody hear that? What his response was? He's like, audiobooks, and then just like sets down. Okay. So I have to be so honest with you, I had no idea what was gonna happen when I asked that question in the audience. If it was gonna be dead silent, we're gonna have to move through, so I appreciate everybody just being so supportive of one another. One thing that I'd like you to do, if you feel comfortable doing it, again, it's all if you feel comfortable doing it, if you wrote that down, if you feel comfortable saying it to the person next to you, because here's why. Sometimes when you say this stuff out loud, it takes the sting out of it. You have no idea if the person next to you might have that moment where they go like, me too, I've done that and I can help you. So if you feel comfortable doing that, sometimes some of you are sitting with your friends, you can turn to the person next to you and share what that is for a moment. We'll do that. You've already done that, but now it's your job to listen. So that's what's Here's the next thing that you need to do. I'm glad that you share with one another. And I'm not going to hold you accountable to this because your life is your life. And as we say in my organization, I can't want it more than you. But here's the deal. You need to take an action on that. Because just vocalizing it is like, yay. Okay? But you have to do something about it. Otherwise, you're going to stay stuck and you're going to stay stagnant. And so if you can think to yourself, what's one action that I can take today that will counteract that fear and that limiting belief? Just think about what that is, and please try hard not to give yourself some huge goal like I was sharing with our friend here, like please don't go register for a marathon. Please just maybe a 5K walk or run. Let's just start there so that you can really set yourself up to be successful, because you don't want to keep perpetuating the fear by setting these huge goals, unrealistic expectations for yourself, and then not meeting them. All it does is keep proving it. And so here's the thing that we have to keep in mind when we are facing our limiting beliefs and facing our fears. We have to start looking around at who we spend our time with. Some of you are probably very familiar with the Jim Rohn quote, we are the average of the 5 people that we hang out with. So let's just think about that for a second. Think about your top 5. Are you super wild about that average? Think about it. Think about it. So what'll happen when you start when you start looking at your top 5, you might find out that they actually kind of perpetuate your limiting beliefs. So let's say, for example, you've told your friends, I want to get healthy, and they're like, oh my gosh, come to happy hour, don't go to the gym. That's not really tribe material, okay? And if you've said to a friend, I really want to be in a romantic relationship, I want to kind of stop hooking up and I want something more serious, and they're like, you know that all guys and girls suck. What's the point? That's not tribe material for that goal. And if you go and you tell your family and friends, I think I'm going to quit my job because I want to go start this thing over here, and they go, ugh, really? It's kind of risky in this market to do that. Again, not top 5 material. And here's the thing, before you think that I'm trying to blast your friends and family, that's not it. They're coming from their own fear-based mentality, okay? They can only offer up what they can offer up. So I don't think that they're wrong or bad for saying those things. That's their belief system. But when you start stretching yourself and facing your fears and getting out of that, there's going to be a shift in your life. And you may lose some things. You may lose friends, family, maybe a relationship or 2, maybe some work as you're breaking through and you're challenging these limiting beliefs. You may lose some of these things. And sometimes for people, the fear of losing something actually keeps them stuck. But here's a list of some things that you might actually gain. Yeah, it's the same. Okay. You can potentially gain some friends, family, relationships, work that are more in alignment with your new belief system and your new way of living. So I just think it's really important to acknowledge that. And I know that sometimes it's really hard and change is hard, and as humans we don't like it, it's uncomfortable, and it makes us feel anxious and weird. But here's the deal. If you're down with facing your fears and limiting beliefs, I would love to meet you, because here's what can happen. I can call BS on your stuff, you can call BS on my stuff, and together we can start breaking through and really bringing a fuller, truer sense of ourselves to the world, because I don't think that life is meant to be lived really great in one area of your life, but super hidden and stagnant and stuck in another area. I think we're meant to live fully, and I think that allows us to bring our true selves to the world, which allows us to make a difference in the world. So here's what I'd like us to consider when you're taking on the idea of facing or taking a risk. When we risk, all we are doing is releasing insecurities and strengthening our knowledge. Each time that we are courageous and brave enough to take a risk, we're showing to ourselves that we're worth it and that we matter. And as we do that, we strengthen our knowledge and awareness around our own value and self-worth. And I really do believe that the more we feel comfortable in the unknown and in taking risks, the better we will understand our value and worth. Taking risks and stepping out of our comfort zone is a way of saying to ourselves, hey, you're worth it. So I encourage all of us to do this today. And I encourage all of us to try and go too far today, as T.S. Eliot said, and to commit to taking an action today that feels brave and risky. For some of you, that could mean dedicating 15 minutes to a creative pursuit that you've kind of pushed off to the side or tabled. Maybe it's choosing that it's okay not to be right and offering up an apology. Or maybe it's picking up the phone and going after that gig one more time and really putting yourself out there. But whatever it is for you, I really encourage you and support you in doing that today. And ask you that, like, how about that, let's let today be the day, and this is going to paraphrase Anais Nin, but let's have today be the day that when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. Thank you so much.